Hello and welcome to the Powerful Personal Brand Podcast, where my guests and I share tips to help and inspire you to build a great personal brand to increase your visibility and authority. On today's episode, my guest and I talk about content marketing and the importance of content marketing. And we also talk about ChatGPT and how it's really affecting the content marketing world and what you should know. So let's get into it. I am your host, Claire Bahn, and on today's episode, I am very excited to be joined by Expereince. Eric's love for dog training began with his first dog over 15 years ago, and so did his desire to learn about photography and film. He studied film at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas, and as a content creator, he began actively making videos for social media during the pandemic, and some of his most viral videos caught the eye of producers at Good Morning America and other news outlets. Upon realizing the need for more dog trainers in the community, he started offering services and group classes. He now has worked with dogs in Europe, Africa, and in the US. In his free time, Eric enjoys playing musical instruments, reading, watering plants, and hiking with his dog Capri. Eric, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
How are you?
I'm good. So I want to give people a little bit of a backstory. So I found you, Eric, on Instagram and probably, 3 to 6 months ago. And I just loved the way I feel like a lot of times influencers, dog trainers, they kind of condescend sometimes.
Sure.
I am, I know all this stuff and they just have a condescending way about them. You have silly videos that you make. You have a ton of fun making it, looks like. And
Yeah.
I feel like you have teaching within your content, but it doesn't feel like I'm being spoken down to or being preached at or anything like that. And I was like, if there's anyone that's going to deal with our crazy Bo and Trixie, it's you. And you happen to be in LA and you trained our crazy pups. And I really feel, because we've gone through so much training, I really feel like we learned a lot. So then after we did our training, I invited you to be on the show because I was like,
Yeah.
you know a thing or two about personal branding. You have over 1 million followers on TikTok, 270,000 followers on Instagram. And I know you have a YouTube channel. That's huge.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to build that following?
The thing with content creating is that you mean to do it and you start off with the intention, but then no one's watching the videos initially. And so you get dissuaded. So I've been dissuaded many times over the last 10 years, let's say.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I originally, because I travel so much, I originally wanted to make travel content. So I started off doing that, but then I would only travel once every 2 or 3 months. So then it just was hard to be consistent because after a while I'd used up all of the videos. So then I opened up a YouTube channel and tried to do that. And then it was just not so easy to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do originally. And the dog training really happened by accident. I happened to have dogs and I would never have thought to just put a camera on myself because, I like to take photos of things and other things and share those things. So I never would have thought to turn the camera around on myself. But I think 2019 or so is where I started doing that because I'm not even really sure why. It was just a therapy. It was therapy for me because I think that I just winded down from traveling so much, and all of a sudden I had a lot more time. So I was just trying to show just what I was doing in my normal life. So I would say that it's been, let's say, 10 years or 4 years.
I think that's an important thing for people to know. And whenever we bring on our clients, because we work with executives and CEOs mainly, they're always so afraid of being in front of the camera. And I'm like, no, now's the time because no one's watching. Make all the mistakes.
Right. Yeah.
Because you can. And so how did you develop your online persona?
The first thing I thought about was, how am I going to create or exist in a way that I can do this continuously? Because I felt like if I was too perfect and I had everything set up beforehand and was in the right environment with the right lighting and all of these things, then I would have to keep consistently doing that, which there are people who have areas that are set up and things like that. But
I do.
again, because yeah, because my lifestyle is so random and I'm always here or there or travel. I wanted to pick the most original routes. That way wherever I was, I could still create content and it would make sense.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so that was the sort of driving force behind just deciding not to pick one location and have that be a vignette of uh you know what the video would look like. So for me, it was just a decision to choose the same sort of style because that's just who I am,
Hmm.
and not try to think too much about perfecting it.
Okay.
I don't know if
So
that's a
like
good word.
basically when your video like so essentially as far as like a persona is concerned, like it's you. You're just like I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
putting
I
on
literally
anything or
I
anything like
literally
that.
wake up. I literally wake up. I've got three stands around the house, one in the garage, one in the kitchen, and then one in my living room. And I literally will just wake up and whatever idea comes to mind, I will just press record and just talk into the camera. I try
Yeah.
not to think too much about that. And I have dreams about what I'm going to say sometimes because at this point it just feels like that's my life now. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll have a random dream about what cool idea or something that pops in my head that I've maybe perhaps thought about the night before. And then the next morning, as soon as I wake up, I'm like, oh, gotta go record. And that's why a lot of
Yeah.
times I look unprepared. Like people say that I've got like homeless vibes because I just show up and just do it. But for me, I think it's more effective that way because then I don't have to think too much about you know how it looks or how it comes across.
Yeah, but I think that I mean, as somebody that's seen a lot of your videos, what you say doesn't come across as homeless vibes. Like, if someone
Yeah.
says like you have, it doesn't, so it doesn't, I think that doesn't necessarily matter because it's what you're actually conveying is actually
Sure.
useful information.
Yeah.
And so that's always really good. So if someone else is like, I want to be an influencer, because like who
Hmm.
doesn't? How
Yeah.
should they curate their identity and should they tailor things differently for each platform? Because I know you're on different platforms. Do you
Yeah.
think kind of like one size fits all? Do you tailor? What are your thoughts?
No, it's definitely not one size fits all. You have to tailor it. I think so. Let's let's pick YouTube for example. With YouTube, people go on there actively searching a question that needs an answer, and they're willing to watch through the whole process to get to the end of it. So if it's a 20-minute long video, they're willing to sit through and watch that. So with
Mm-hmm.
with that, you have the ability to explain things with more detail, and you can be a lot slower and make sure that people are really digesting the content. And I think with TikTok, because we're just scrolling through, we have a very limited period there where we can capture the attention. And so for me, with TikTok, I try my best anyway, not to use words like I and me and, things like that. I realize that no one cares about me. And that's, I think, an important thing that a lot of people don't realize is when I'm watching a video, I don't care about the person. I just care about what they're trying to say. So the way that I've doctored TikTok is that I start off with the problem. So here's the reason why this thing is not working. After which I will then choose to introduce myself. My name is Eric, and these are the ways to solve that. So
Yeah.
then whoever is interested in it I get them within that first period of a few seconds, which then allows me to go into the details. But I do take the idea of YouTube and apply it to TikTok in a certain way because YouTube's platform is set up in a way where your best videos will be like, here are 5 things to do or 5 things not to do, or the top 7 ways where you can, or 3 things to avoid, whatever it is. So
Mm-hmm.
I will simply not say that and just say what the 3 things are with TikTok,
Hmm.
if that makes
Okay.
sense,
Yeah.
right?
No, I mean, a
And
lot, obviously, different people,
yeah,
with CEOs and things like that, but all the same parameters apply. And I think that that's one of the
yeah,
biggest things. I was actually speaking to somebody else on another podcast, and we talked about how like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like personal branding because it sounds so selfish and all this kind of stuff. And
right,
I was just like, well, if that's how you think, then you're doing it wrong
of
because
course.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's one of the biggest things. Like, people are like, "Oh, I want to be an influencer. I want 1 million followers." But you're like, "What does that? What?" But someone actually, you have to give it good information so that people actually care and are invested. No one's just going to follow you
Yeah.
because, like the Kardashian effect. Like, it's just
Right.
fame for
I
fame's
never
sake.
liked. Sorry, I
You don't
didn't
know.
mean to cut you off, but I never liked the word influencer or when people
Yeah.
say I'm an influencer and that's my job, because I think not many people have true influence. Like, to have true influence, people have to actually care about, a lot of what they're doing. They're whatever the reason is for how they became popular on social media, then all they're doing is just one week they're selling this thing and then the next week is another thing, and there's no
hmm
consistency.
So, how do you differentiate? Like, what's the difference for you between like celebrity and like a popular content creator? I feel like you've touched upon it just now, but is
Sure.
there anything else that you see differentiates the two?
A celebrity is celebrated for something,
Okay.
or for their talent. There is a true talent and a true ability that's being celebrated
hmm
worldwide and understood as well. And I think that that's the difference. The influencer is, I don't consider that a celebrity. I think that it's just popularity,
hmm
and popularity is relative. Someone who is an influencer in one country perhaps goes to a whole other country and no one knows who they are.
Right.
A celebrity can go anywhere and there will be people who know them because they're largely celebrated by the populace,
hmm
and for good reason, you know.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
I have to ask, I know, as someone who is quite popular, that you get a lot of feedback online. So what's your
sure.
feeling? What are your thoughts on online feedback, reviews? Like, how do you feel about those?
I personally do not care about reviews because I don't depend on them to get work. I think that in my line of work is unique, and I find that because of the large social media presence, there will be people who obviously disagree with your opinions and your thoughts, and some people are very vindictive and will purposefully go try to ruin your name, and when they have the ability to do it on a Google review or anything like that. So I've chosen not to set myself up that way, because
hmm
first of all, I don't work based on that review structure.
Yeah.
I think my work is just, I show it and it speaks for itself,
Yeah.
and I don't want to give people any ability to whatever they gain from that. I don't want to give them any power at all. So
Yeah.
personally, reviews are great. There's nothing wrong with
Right.
them. For most businesses, I think a lot of people depend on good reviews, but I think that it's hard. It's hard because um, you can't moderate it properly. If someone
hmm
decides they want to go say something mean about me, or whatever the case is, or even an ex-girlfriend, personal problem, and then they go there
Yeah.
and they try to ruin your name, there's the process to remove that is strenuous.
Is
And
Yeah, I our previous business, we used to help people build their online presence for online dating and LinkedIn. And for some
yeah.
reason, Yelp picked up our address and put us in on like Yelp New York. And someone wrote a
Hmm.
review. We had like 2 reviews and they were great. But I had a
Yeah.
friend who had a business who had significant problems because like they had a food truck and somebody literally gave them a horrible review because the
Right.
Coke was not cold and
Yeah.
like things like that. They're just like absolutely ridiculous. But basically, Yelp said, okay, we can take that down, but you need to pay us an exorbitant rate in
Right.
order to curate
To do
these
it.
things. And so I literally was like, that's terrifying. So I
And that's
called
a
them and
business for them.
yeah. And so I
Yeah.
said, I want my Yelp, profile taken down because I didn't
Yeah.
want a bad review because I didn't
Yeah.
want to have to deal with that. It's so
Right.
I agree. Yeah. I saw
And
like something with Anthony Bourdain. He was said there's nothing worse than like a master Yelper, somebody that does like tons of Yelp
they have
reviews
too much
because those are
time.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The only people who leave reviews are the people who had a quote unquote bad experience.
Yeah.
So the general public really shouldn't care about reviews, but unfortunately, people still do.
Yeah.
Whenever I go on Airbnb and and I see a negative review, I don't pay attention to it because I know that there are people who are just stubborn naturally and will find fault in anything. So personally, I don't pay that much attention to reviews, and I don't care for them in my own personal
I feel like
work.
sometimes I do care. I like like Airbnbs. I don't know.
No. Of course, there are absolutely times when you
Yeah,
should
you're
read
like,
the review. But what I'm saying is that if I went through and there's like 100 good reviews, and then
oh yeah,
there's like 3 or 4, I'm not going to pay attention to that.
yeah.
You know?
No, I actually, it's funny because my husband actually is always like, well, go to the bad reviews first and see if
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
real,
sure,
like and worth even looking at. And if they're not, then only listen to the good reviews. Because yeah, if
yeah,
there's something that like stupid, their Coke was not
right,
cold, or
right,
they spoke to me strangely, or I don't know.
yeah,
You're just like, come on, get a life.
yeah. No, I think a couple of good reviews is enough. But
Hmm.
I had a situation where a fellow trainer was dealing with someone who we met in person who they just had a disagreement, and that person went on his page and wrote him a negative review, a long one, lengthy one, and then he had to go beg his friends, his followers, to go and you know
Make it go
make yeah
down.
yeah and just balance it
Yeah.
out a bit and stuff. And you have to beg people for reviews. No,
Hmm.
the people who should leave reviews don't usually do it.
Yeah.
And
I know I'm
I
one of those
also
people.
yeah and I also am not one to beg anyone for anything, so
Yeah.
I just don't bother.
So you've obviously been doing this for a while. So 10 years total, and we've already talked about a little
Right.
bit of an evolution from travel to now dog training. But like tell us how it's kind of evolved over the last few years since you really kind of got into it in 2019.
Well, when I started off, so this is my theory on when you start something. I think
Hmm.
that if you want to create insight conversation, you should find the people who have opposing views, and you should pander to them, because they will sit there and try to argue with you or try to claim that they're right. And all that does from the point of view of the algorithm is it says, oh, this video must be interesting because there's so much interest. So
Hmm.
that was originally when I started, that's what I was doing.
So
Was I
like
was
a video to like essentially counter what somebody else was saying, essentially.
No, not even, not
Oh,
like a stitch or nothing like that. But
oh,
so let's say the idea is we have positive only trainers, which are people who just believe in using positive reinforcement, treats, and things
hmm,
like that, and they wouldn't dare correct the dog for any reason, and they want the dog to have the freedom of choice, and all of these things, and it feels nice and simple. And then there are people who also believe in adding corrections to prevent to prevent behaviors from continuing. And so it's basically like two schools of thought. And so you
hmm,
have so for me, instead of which is what what anyone should do, is just like focus on your own thing and talk about your thing. I would start off saying, this is why they are wrong.
ah, okay,
So this is why positive only training doesn't work. And
got
then
it.
go into details. And all of the positive only trainers would then come on the page and insult me or say this or say that or whatever the case was. And I grew thick skin because I had a purpose. And the purpose was simply to create more conversation. And so then at some point I would just light the fire and let them work through it in the comment section, and I would
Yeah.
come in and just like leave an emoji or something, and then they would get pissed off. And so all of that was just like was just one of my favorite strategies in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then this year I've sort of grown from that, because
Okay.
I no longer, now the pages are growing. Like I grew maybe 10,000 more people the last week, just out of a couple of videos that I
Yeah.
posted, So now it's just on a roll, and I don't need
Hmm.
to like incite conversation or pick on anyone, nothing like that. But
Yeah.
I think it's a good strategy, as long as you're being relatively respectful to
Well,
find the people.
as far as dog training goes, I could tell you that the positive training did not work for my little crazy pups because No, I
So
mean, because I just remember having a trainer and she was like, when Trixie gets crazy and she's barking at like,
right,
yeah, she's like coming after somebody like in the house, just throw a
yeah,
treat in the opposite direction
right,
she'll be able to see that she'll look at the treat and keep running at the person. You're just like,
yeah,
no, this doesn't help
it,
my crazy dog. Like, you
right.
don't.
There are
So,
many situations where it's not worked. Even I
yeah.
get referrals from PetSmart because they have to use positive training methods only, and
Oh,
sometimes maybe I shouldn't have said PetSmart specifically, but just different dog training places.
yeah.
But they if they can't handle the dog, they forward them to other people perhaps,
Yeah.
and so it just and there's nothing wrong with it. If you've got a puppy and you start from scratch and you're molding all those behaviors with, you
Yeah.
know, that's easy. But then when you're dealing with reactivity and aggression and like resource guarding and all these things and just bad behaviors in general, you
Yeah.
know, dogs at a certain point, you can give them a chicken wing and they'll just look at it and they don't care for it because perhaps
Yeah.
they're still stressed out.
Yeah.
Or just any behavior you don't want. Like it's just like it's the same as a child. You use whatever you need to do, positive
Hmm.
punishment, negative punishment. You take an Xbox away from a child and tell them to go clean their room. That is punishment.
Hmm.
So the word punishment is just so people get so pissy about it, but there are many
Hmm.
forms of it. It's not just physical.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but that's that's what I deal with.
I do like that. I will say there are a lot of standalone videos podcasts and things that I do, and they're essentially that. Sometimes
Yeah.
I don't call people out, but sometimes I've literally created videos
Hmm.
directly addressing a client and some
Yeah.
like whatever that they did. Like one of them, I actually had a former client who was like, did not had never done a speaking engagement, but she wanted paid speaking engagements. I said, okay, here's the
Yeah.
path. You have to like do online, then you need to do free in person, then you need to. And she's
Right.
like, no, you should be able to get me paid speaking engagements in 3 months.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
and so I literally, is it actually one of my most popular videos on YouTube? Everyone loves that
Okay.
video, but it literally
Yeah.
was directed at like, what do you need to do to get
To
paid
get
speaking
where you
engagements?
need to
And
be. Yeah.
yeah, and you're just like, sometimes people are like, they're insane,
Yeah.
and you're
No.
like, no, you're wrong.
The work is tough, and a lot of people just don't realize how tough it is. And
Yeah,
a lot of people, when you tell them this is what it takes, they're not. You find that they're not willing to do it. I mean, I don't
exactly.
think. I think if you wanted to brand yourself in a certain way and you wanted to pursue any kind of online, like I think it's all possible. I used to feel like it was impossible because I looked at other people doing it, and that era
Mm-hmm.
of Vine was where I really was very curious and wanted to be part of it. And I would
Mm-hmm.
watch like King Batch and all these other people, and I'm like, I want to do that. But then I would. It was so hard to just set up a camera and like I would have a good idea and then I wouldn't write it down, and then I would,
Yeah,
oh man, I forgot what that thing was that I was thinking about, and then you know what I mean. And so it's like,
yeah,
but so to answer your other question, a lot of the things that I started doing was if I would take a notepad with me or I opened up um different notes on my phone, and so anytime I had a good idea or just any random idea I would write it so I make sure I don't forget what it is.
so important.
I learned about archetypes and had to figure out what mine was, and I landed on the jester and the explorer, and I tried to, because with branding, it's all about how they see you, and then
Yeah,
how do I communicate how they see me in a way that's consistent, essentially, and thinking about what the voice should be. So these are all things I had to start thinking about because I'm like, okay, I'm going to commit to this, but I have to think about that. The visuals, like someone said, oh, why don't you have shirts? I'm like, I don't need them. And they're like, no, you got to have them and you got to take them and wear them when you go out in public and your videos and put your logo on the back so people can see it. So then I had a friend who just made me a few shirts and I started wearing those out. And what font am I going to be using when those things are important because they
yeah.
set you apart from everyone else. colors.
Yeah.
I had to think about what color do I want my video uh to feel. I don't know, if it makes sense, to feel like a certain color, and
Hmm.
I want my videos to feel like orange.
Okay.
How, like, when you look at orange, what does that make you feel like? That was
I,
something that I remember actively
yeah.
thinking about.
I can't think of it how it is in the color wheel because I know with our clients we give them the color wheel and we're like, what is
Uh huh.
yeah, I can't remember what the emotions that are with orange.
It's just general warmth,
Okay.
a feeling of hunger.
Okay.
With food, they use orange, they use red, they use orange, yellow, things
Yeah.
like that, like strawberries and whatnot,
I know that
um,
those are very
to
intention
make
grabbing
you,
too.
yeah, to make
Yeah.
you feel hungry, the
Okay.
desire to eat. So I find that whenever I have that idea in the back of my head, and I'm trying to make a video that feels like they want to see more, then
Yeah.
even without actually putting any color in the video, the thought helps me create the content that says, all right, leave them on a cliffhanger here so that you can give them more of it the next time around, because I know that
Yeah.
they want more of it. So things
Right.
like that. And then just trying to be honest and straightforward, but also
Mm-hmm.
being relatable and transparent. I don't see anyone who shows their mistakes. I've had some three serious mistakes, and I've talked about them. I've posted the pictures to show
Okay.
the
Okay.
faults.
I remember one where the dog bit you recently. Is
Yeah,
that what you're talking
I got
about?
no. There was one where
Oh.
someone left their dog with me,
Oh.
and but I usually say don't leave any collar, like just a flat collar on the dog. So
Okay.
they had a pinch collar on, and the collar was on there. It's a long-haired dog, and it was on there for 10 days, and I didn't notice it the whole time, because I follow a very strict routine, and so
Okay.
going through my routine, it didn't really involve also playing with the dog and enough to notice that it was there. So it was all the way up here, and so it causes pressure sores because it's metal, and it's just
Mm.
been rubbing against the dog's skin for that period of
Mm.
time. So then, by the end, when they picked the dog up, the dog had, you know, pressure burns
Oh.
around the neck, and it just looked really bad. They had to go shave it and things like that.
Mm.
And I felt originally, I was like, you know what, that wasn't my fault because it's in the agreement that you shouldn't leave, you should only put a flat collar on. But then I had to think again and humble myself and realize that if I was in their position and I left my dog with someone who should know, that was the important thing, is that I should know to check. And it's not,
Mm-hmm.
I should know more than them, is really what it came to. And so I had to like do that, and then I apologized and I refunded the money,
Mm-hmm.
and I tried to keep the friendship, because they wanted to have me come go hiking with them and things like that. So that was a great learning experience, but then it also helped me realize that I need to come up with rules and checklists and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And so from that point on, every time I interacted with a dog, there would be a checklist that I would go through and make sure that, oh, there's this and this is not there, and all the things that I need are here. And then
Yeah.
now you sign it so that we're both in agreement, and
Yeah.
then we can begin. So
I mean, I would say the same thing has happened. We started this business in 2019, and like the contract that we have people sign now is so much
yeah,
bigger because you kind of
yeah,
like you learn things. You're like, oh, I need to make sure that this is in there for that, so that this
sure,
is more defined. Or we learned that, and like we have like so many processes that the team has to use now, and things.
right,
I completely agree. Things just evolve.
yeah,
Well, I did want to ask one thing. We kind of touched upon it with like negative reviews and things like that, but
mm-hmm.
I do know because occasionally I know that I was looking at the video that of us of me and the pups, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
God, I wonder if people like said anything
If
super
people
negative
are
about
gonna
like
say,
she's like a horrible human or
sure,
whatever. I think at least the last time I checked, everyone was pretty good, But
yeah, yeah, there was nothing to
yeah. But
bad.
like, how do
Yeah,
you deal with like someone that's just like a complete like asshole? Like you were talking about like people going back and forth in the comments. Do you ever just, I mean, I know sometimes I have had people say the negative things and I'm like, I really don't have time to even respond to your just blatant negativity for just negativity's sake. And I'll just,
right.
block them and just say, I don't even need you. So like, what is your
Yeah.
feeling about that? People that are just like assholes for just to be an asshole, a troll, whatever you want to call them.
Sure. Well, you have to know that those people are going to be negative regardless of what you do. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the first thing, is that you're not going to turn that person's feelings about you around in any possible way. They've already made their decision. And when you're hosting a public page, I think you have to decide, this is my rule. I don't care what you say as long as you don't insult whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the rule is. And so for me, I usually, unless someone calls me like an idiot or something like that that feels like an actual insult, if they're just like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing, those are fine. But there are a couple of things that I just absolutely won't allow. If someone calls me an animal abuser, I don't allow
Mm-hmm.
that, things like that. So there are a couple of
Mm-hmm.
rules with that. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, it's not especially my way, because I started off just as an average user with maybe like my friends, 700 of my friends following me for a while. And then I went from that to 100,000 in like 1 week.
Huh.
And of course that was exciting, but then with that comes the negativity
Mm-hmm.
as well. And
Yeah.
so you have to, it's tough initially, because you take that personally. And so I went through a period of, it felt depressive in a way, because when you read it, for some reason your brain won't allow you to focus on the good comments. It
Yeah.
only allows you to focus on the negative ones.
Yeah.
And so what I did was that, instead of, I would just practice replying with positive things, and just being almost condescending with my reply, but just like, if they said, "Oh, that's stupid," I would say, "You're stupid." If they said, "That's fantastic," I would say, "You're fantastic." And so then that became a game for me.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 so it was easier for me to then go through and just reply to it dispassionately, instead
Mm-hmm.
of feeling like I had, because I'm like, okay, well, I don't think I'm an idiot, so that obviously that cannot be true. However,
Yeah.
you're an idiot. And then I would leave it at that. But I don't like to reply. I don't like to reply to them. However, I realize that I need them. So now I
Yeah.
turn that into, like, okay, let me see what I can say or do to keep this person coming back, because
Yeah.
all I have to do is delete their comment, and they're going to be pissed off, or block them, and they're going to go make another page and come back, or whatever the
Mm.
case is. So I kind of manipulate the situation to my benefit.
Yeah.
Or the other thing that I do now is that I'll find a comment that I can make a video about, because
Yep.
they're like clapback videos, and so
Mm-hmm.
that has become part of my thing now. So
Yeah.
from time to time, I'll go through once or twice a week and look for the most outlandish comment, perhaps, and then I'll
Yeah.
try to just make a joke video about that. And a lot of people really really like that. So now when I read them, I'm looking for them, because I want to see which one I can use, and
Yeah.
so. But it takes a
As
it takes a
help.
yeah,
They help
yeah,
you.
sure. But it takes a
That's
while to. A lot of people don't have that sort of inner, uh sort of way to say it. They're not at peace enough with themselves, and I think a lot of people
yeah.
are seeking validation, and so when they have a negative comment, it affects them,
Yeah.
and nothing wrong with that. It's human nature. But I think I
Right.
think if you just say to yourself, like, this person has too much time. People who are busy, who are doing things, they're not sitting there writing negative comments. The only people who
Right.
are sitting there being and continually, feeding you with that negativity, are people who are not doing anything, and who are not happy. And
Well,
that's just the
and
that's just the
yeah, they're
truth.
not happy. They have other issues that they're dealing with, and things like that. I mean,
Right.
my mom always told me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. But with
Yeah.
the whole internet thing, they can be anonymous and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, so all
Right.
the things that you can think of. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's more, yeah, that they have a very sad life that they have to make those comments.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
all it takes for you is just click on their profile, and it'll tell you all you need to know. You'll
Yeah.
see like 5 or 6 pictures that have no, they have nothing to do with each other, and then you maybe see a picture of them, but most likely you won't see anything. So it's
Yeah.
like,
They're just
why would you
hiding.
respond to a person who has a picture of an avatar of a cat or something? I don't know.
Yeah. I agree. Well,
Yeah.
so
So
for other content creators out there, what 3 tips would would you give them?
It's really just start. Just if
Okay.
you want to do it, just start doing it. Don't try to be perfect. Don't wait for it to be perfect. It'll never really feel perfect. You'll never have the right equipment. You'll never have the right lighting. You'll never be in. You just have to just do it. And I think that a lot of people don't realize, because when people see a video that looks perfect, they don't realize that they have to rehearse that over and over again. You can find the people who on the other end of your school of thought and try to pander to them. I think that's a good strategy. I've actually had that work for a few other people as well, who have just tried to incite more conversation. Patience. You have to be patient. So if you're going to be a content creator and the goal really shouldn't be aiming for virality, because it's just, who knows? I posted a video with no captions, no hashtags, nothing, and the video went viral. So there's no real, it's very rare that you can make a video purposefully for that reason. So I think that shouldn't be your goal. Your goal should really just be like wanting to make the content helpful to other people.
I think there's so much that we kind of covered upon, but all of the things I feel like that I have to tell like prospective clients and people like that. So just really great information. And I think one of the most important things is, just start. Don't worry about perfection. It's just, it's just never going to be perfect.
I hate cutting people off, but it just hit me. Boom.
Yeah. Go
Sound.
ahead. Okay. Good sound, audio.
Yeah. The beauty of sound is that when it's good, you don't notice it because it's good.
Okay.
So if you have bad sound, I don't care how beautiful and cinematic your video looks. All you're going to hear is the hissing and the whatever. Yeah. If you're using your camera's sound, everyone else has some kind of lapel mic or something. And so they're all the way over there. You can still hear them as if they're right here because they have that mic with them. So if you're making a video and you don't have good sound, it's going to be terrible. There's no way to, just think about it. Going to a movie as well, like you're watching a movie, and I don't know if you've ever watched a low budget. Have you ever watched a Nigerian film? I'm from Nigeria, so
I have not. I don't believe that I have.
All right. Well, you know how you're in a scene and there's two people and you're going from this person's view to this person's view. It really should feel like it's on the same audio track, but you can hear the cut. Like you might hear a car that when they cut to this person, that car is no longer moving in that sound. So that's the kind of thing that's what it feels like. It's hard to watch. For me, my sister loves them. It's hard for me to watch many Nigerian films because that's how they film it without any so all you can hear is the sound. So it's very annoying. So when you're doing social media, if you had to invest your money in anything, just get a little. I've got one of these little things. They have the ones that pin here. Sound.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. The sound is definitely key because that is one of the things that I notice. I'm like, I can't. Visuals too, though. For me too, I sometimes.
Sure.
But so I believe. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Gary Vee, whatever. But but he actually does impart information that I think does have value, and he's so messy. He's a giant mess. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest things. If you actually are giving value, then people really will give you a break.
People will give you a break up till a certain point. If you actually go look at Gary Vee's content, as popular as he used to be, the videos are not doing as well as they used to.
Because
if you really go like. Yeah, I know that because I think yesterday I went on just a thing where I was scrolling through and whatnot. The style is, like you said, it's messy, but he has chosen a few different things, and I think that he started doing a green screen thing where he just like points and talks about a couple of things that are happening, and a picture in the background of the frame, and he's trying. Because I think he's also realized that there's something that's not working, which that's the whole point of it, is to try new things.
Yeah.
But yeah, just something I noticed.
Interesting. I'll have to go take a look. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. So now, it's all about trial and error, but, yeah, Erica, this is like so much fun. I definitely, you've given great tips. I think that a lot of people can learn from, and that, it's not magic. it takes time and it takes effort and
it's exhausting.
Yeah.
but it's worth it, you know.
Yeah. Well, so
I'm sorry, I hate doing this, but I keep doing it.
Do it.
There is one thing that I think is important for people that I should mention.
Yeah, so, tell me.
I think that there should be an ultimate point to what you're doing, and there should be a funnel system where you're getting people from TikTok and you're getting them from Instagram and from YouTube. What is the point of all of that content? How are you going to make money from it? Are you selling something if you're doing it? If you know what is the point? Everything should come down to a website or an email list or something like that. So
yes.
For me, I had to learn that, because what happens if TikTok just decides they're going to get banned? Well, they're not going to decide it. But what happens if the Instagram goes away? Now, all of a sudden, you go from being someone with 10 million followers to being nothing again. And so it's important to also remember what the whole point is. And so when I go through and I comment to people and all of that stuff, at some point in the comments, I'm like, all right, find more of my training at ericandcaprithepup.com, or join the newsletter. If someone asks me a question, I will tell them to email me so that I can answer it in an email, because now I have their email. And eventually later on, if I need to market anything or whatever it is, then they've been filtered at least through the system in some way that I can retrieve the information. So a lot of people who I know, I follow, and they post videos and they're doing really well, but it's not going anywhere. There's no point to it. It's just for the immediate gratification. And all I know for sure is that at some point, just like MySpace was popular and then went away, and we were also like, oh, top eight. Like, it's just a trend. Eventually it will become, even right now, TikTok is starting to sort of feel like you really have to put out, before it used to be easy. You just post a video and it just goes viral for no reason. But now you have to actually put a lot of effort in. And so a lot of people who don't want to put in that effort, they've already lost, and they're posting videos and they're not doing as well anymore. And so now what are you if you don't have, if you don't have the social media, right?
Yeah.
So there should be a place where you're catching all of these people, and all of the traffic needs to be kind of, directed to where it's the most beneficial to you. And so having a website, or at least a landing page, and having some way to collect information, it's all about information ultimately. So that's, I think, an important thing. I
completely agree.
To say.
Yeah. Omni-channel, because you can't guarantee anything. Well, Eric, so if someone wants to connect with you, they want to learn more about you and they want to work with you, how can they do that?
ericandcaprithepup.com.
And all of that is going to be in the show notes and the description box, as well as your social media handles. Yeah,
it's all the same, and it's consistent. ericandcaprithepup.com and all the platforms, and on my website. So, yeah.
Yeah. So please go look him up. And Eric, thank you so much for being here. It was a really great conversation, and I learned a lot. And thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
Yeah. And thank you for listening and watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.